you get it?
I brought a microwave.
Yes, you do.
But forgot to
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see you here at the Center for Teaching and Learning. Today's session is Canvas grading smarter.
Smarter, better, faster.
I'm not looking at it.
Yes, exactly.
With Carrie Kyser. And we're going to get started. This session will be recorded and we'll do questions throughout. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, you guys can interrupt at any time with questions.
All right, and I'm going to pop over here.
Sure. All right, so we are going to just jump in and get started. We're doing the Canvas grading, better, smarter, faster. So let me see, there we go. So most of you guys do know me. I was just in the room here saying that most everybody does know me, but I always like to introduce myself. I'm Carrie Kyser. I'm an instructional designer with eLearning Services. We have 2 instructional designers in our office. There's myself and Angela Meek. We're kind of divided in between the different divisions just so that you guys have a lead instructional designer to work with, but that doesn't mean you can't work with either of us. My contact information is there on the screen. You can always shoot me an email or give me a call. A lot of times email is a good way to get a hold of me because there's a lot of times when I'm already in a meeting or on a phone call and not able to answer, but I will always get back to you. So today we're going to look at Canvas grading. So we're kind of going to look at the ways we can be smarter at it, better at it, and faster. I think all of us, especially with midterms coming up, midterm grades being due in a week, we're all at this moment of needing to grade. And there's some few just tips and tricks that I want to be able to. So we're going to go and jump into this in a demo, and I'm going to show you guys what's going on in Canvas. After this, though, I will have Marlo share out this presentation. And in here, we do have links to all the help pages that show the steps that I'm going to be talking about in each of these. So that'll be available for you as well. Assuming that you will do that for me, right?
I'd be happy.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump into Canvas on Marlo's page there. Let's see here. Let me jump into just a sample class where we're going to look at all the different things for grading. So let me get that zoomed in just a little. I know if you guys are on that screen share, it can be a little harder to see. There, that looks a little bit better. All right, so we're going to jump right into the ways we can grade to be smarter. So I'm going to go to the grades in a class. If you guys are wanting to click along, you can on this. You certainly don't have to. You can just watch as well. So one of the things when you come into grades, this can be a little bit overwhelming. So we're going to look at the grades views, how to show or not show unpublished assignments. We're going to look at how to set a grading scheme, understand all these icons and colors that you see in here, and also about where to place that total column. So first off, when you come in, the grade center, I'm going to scroll all the way to the right here. So I'm just scrolling right. You can see the grades area can get a little long and overwhelming, right? As I'm going through this. So let's look at a few ways we can be smarter about how we see the grades area. So one of them is coming up here to the view. You see that at the top there? So if you click on view, one of the things you can do is not show those unpublished assignments. So I'm going to scroll back over here, and I was seeing these, these might be assignments that maybe you're not using yet. They're not set up totally yet for your students. Maybe they're from a different semester and you brought them in and you haven't addressed them yet. So you just don't want to see those in your grades area. You can just come up here to view and see that checked area. You can just uncheck that. That removes those unpublished assignments. So first off, that already takes out things that we don't need to see. The other thing you can do here in the view area is where you can actually arrange these columns. So if any of you guys remember from good old Blackboard, I say that with love, not really, but that's okay. You could actually just arrange your columns in any order you wanted. You just move them. Well, in here, you actually just arrange them. So they're not ever in any real specific order. You just get to pick how they're organized. Time for review. So if you come on here, you can, I'm going to show you under arrange by, you can do assignment names. So if you want to see them in alphabetical order, now they're all in, oh, I went too far. Scrolled too far. Now they're all in alphabetical order. So I just did a view arrange by. You can also arrange them by due dates. Sometimes that's really handy if you're just wanting to, see them as they progress through the semester. You can do it by due dates. You can go by points. You can also go by modules. So if you put your assignments in the modules, this can also bring you through chronologically. You can also use filters. So you can do, I'm going to hit filters and I'm going to do assignment groups. So if I have my stuff assigned where I just want to come in here now and look at extra credit assignments, I can click on just that. Or if I want to just see it for my final assignments right there. So that's another way that you can organize and be a little bit smarter about what you're seeing in your grades area. Now, before I jump into I'm going to actually clear this right now so that we still can see everything. Before I jump into showing you guys the setting your grade scheme, I want to redress all these icons and colors that you see in your grades area. So if you notice, as I scroll through here, there's all sorts of pinks and blues and oranges and little icons, and it gets a little crazy, right? So let's real quick look at that to see what all those mean. So when you come in here and you see a little symbol like that, a little piece of paper with a little tiny exclamation mark, that means the student has submitted, but you haven't graded it yet. When you see just these little tiny dashes, that means the student hasn't submitted yet. Now for the colors on these, if this has a due date and the due date has passed and the student hasn't submitted, it's that orangish color means missing. And you can see those by, again, I was on this column where I saw those colors. I just click into the student cell and click the over, and then you see those. You can also give a student an excused. So you can use that, that's that blue color you're seeing there. So say a student really did their excuse, they don't have to submit that, you don't want that score counting towards their final grade, you can actually give them an excused there. So those are the different little symbols and such. When you see where they've submitted, but it's that pink color, that means that they have submitted, but it was late. If you don't have a due date set for an assignment, you won't ever see a late color because there's never a late grade for it. Now, one other thing in here, if you notice, your total column is always clear over here to the right. That doesn't work for me personally. I like to see the students' names with their total right away. So one of the first things I do in every class is I come in here, I scroll all the way over to the total column, and you see when I click on those dots, I call that the kebab menu. When I click on the kebab, I can click the move to front. And now, whenever I first come into the class, I see this here where the student and their totals. My students aren't doing very good right now. That's horrible. I have no idea. All right, so those are a couple ways you can be smarter in the grades area, knowing what you're looking at, knowing how to arrange it. One other thing, and this is one of the oddities of Canvas to me, is where they have you set a grading scheme. So when you're setting your what's an A, B, C, D in the class, everything else for grades in Canvas is in the grades area, except for this. And I don't know why it's not here. This is, again, an oddity, but that's why I always want to make sure that people know where this is. So if you go to settings, so I'm back at my course menu. So if you're in grades, right, it hides that course menu for you. So you just go hit the 3 lines, the hamburger menu. If you hit the hamburger, it opens it back up for you. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom and click on settings, I might see a few more little settings in here just because I'm an admin, but everybody, if you scroll down about halfway, you will see this right here, grading scheme. Now, if you're using our template from e-learning, we do enable the course grading scheme, and we use this scheme that is on record at the registrar. But I believe that faculty can still use whatever scheme they are wanting, but this is the one that's on there. So if you're wanting to come in and change this, or if you don't want to do it at all, if you just want your students to see points and no letter grades, you can uncheck the enable, or you can come in here and check it, view grading scheme, and then you can either edit this one or select a different one and create a new one. I just find that odd that it's not in the grades area. I don't really know why it's not. So that's one thing within, if you're trying to be smarter in your grading, you have to at least know where that one is, right?
Okay.
Yeah, do you see it?
Do we have D minuses now? The D minus came back?
I believe so. I got that from the registrar.
The default one from the registrar's office? It says 61% to 64%.
No, we don't. Did you make your own?
No. But the thing that about. Oh, it just says this one's not called the LCS grading scheme. This is called
Oh.
the default grading scheme.
Yeah, no. So
Okay.
did you not use the template in your class?
No, I did not.
Then you don't have the right one.
Yeah,
You should use the template.
okay. Yeah, I clearly should, 'cause they have D minuses.
Just discovering here in the class was that if you have not used a template, you have the default Canvas grading scheme, which you'll notice on the one, you'll know if you have this or not. If you see here, it's named LCSC grading. So you may have the default one from Canvas. This is also important to know if you have a pass-fail class and you want it to be in here, not as A, B, C, and D's.
I couldn't figure out because I wanted to change it because
Yeah.
I just wanted, because like 89.9%
Yeah.
to me is an A minus. It is
Yep.
not a B plus.
Yep.
And so what I wanted Canvas to do was to
Round for you.
round. I wanted to round.
Yep.
To two significant
I'm
figures, which I thought
smiling.
was not that hard, but it
Correct.
does not do that. And
Correct.
so, but I then wasn't quite sure. It's like, I couldn't remember where the line was.
I think you would have to come in and put in the 0.5s.
Yeah. Well, except, yeah, maybe.
So
I don't
this
know. I
would
just
be
did
an-
an override column. I
Yeah,
just override their grade.
yeah, you can do that.
Can
So if
we,
you notice that I'm editing it, yeah,
can we also make a column, so after the total column could, like in Blackboard, you can make a column that said letter grade? And
No.
then just, you cannot do that?
you cannot do that in
Okay.
Canvas. Yeah. So in Canvas, you can't add just a column has to be associated with an assignment.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you could make a non-submission assignment and type in the letters if you wanted to.
Okay,
It's kind of a roundabout way of doing it, I guess.
yeah,
But that is an option, I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, you
good
would have to
idea.
make a non-submission assignment to be able to
Okay.
add a column. And it wouldn't necessarily display to the students where you think it would.
oh,
Does that make sense? Because students don't see the grades, obviously, like we do in a giant grade book. They see it in an order. So you would almost have to give it its own category or something, a final grade assignment category, so that the students saw it in a logical
gotcha.
order.
Okay,
I'm gonna go ahead and click cancel on that. Yes.
So if we didn't use the template
Yes.
and we have the default grade scheme,
Yeah.
is there a way we can get the LCSC grade scheme, or do we just have to manually go in and change?
Probably the easiest is to manually change it at that point. You could go out, trying to think. We could probably, as one of the instructional designers, import just the grade scheme for you.
Okay.
So if you wanted to shoot us an email, we probably could do that. But yes, you could manually change it as well. Yeah. Any other questions on grade scheme?
is there a way to make the columns on the grade book narrower?
You can, I think you can manually do it when you're in. Let me hit done here. I'm gonna jump back to grades. Yeah, you should be able to just slide them. So notice how I'm grabbing. I just grabbed. So like if you know, like you're done grading this one and you really just don't need to see the whole name of it, you can just slide it down. Now, obviously you get it too far, you can't
Then you can't see what it is.
you can't see what it is. But if like I said, if it's totally graded and you know, you just need to know, see the
Numbers.
first part of the word and you know what it is. Yeah, you can manually slide these.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's jump into kind of the category where I'm talking about better grading. So we're back here in the grades area, right? So we've learned how to organize it. We know what all the symbols mean now. One of the ways that you can help have Canvas do some of the work for you in grading is to put your grading policy directly into Canvas. So I'm going to come up here to the little sprocket icon, clear in the upper right. And when you click on this, this is where you can put in your late policy. So if you have a policy that says audit that if you don't submit by the due date, it's a 0. Or you can submit after the due date, but it will always be 50% of what you would have got had you submitted on time. You can come in here, and the first one that comes up is the late policies right there. And then you can select this automatically apply grade for missing submissions. So if they haven't submitted, you can say you're automatically, that's your percentage for a missing submission. You can also do the automatically applied deduction to late submissions. So I'm going to say you lose 10% per day. The lowest percentage you can lose, I just hit too far over again and close that. Sorry, guys. Come back down here. So again, on my late submissions, I'm going to say you lose 10% per day, and the most you can lose is 70%. So then I don't have to apply those late grades in my head when I'm grading them. Canvas will do it for me. Okay. It doesn't get too, you don't have too many options here. I will say that. You can do it by the hour, which I think would be just mean to students. I don't know anybody who has you lose it by the hour. I do have a lot of people who want to lose it by the week, and that's not an option. If you're a week late, you lose 30%. You submit it within that first week, it's 10% off, then you lose 30. It's not that granular. So but yeah, you could lose 10% at home. I guess if you had like maybe a test that you were, I don't know, maybe, but like that seems new. So you can set that up. So Canvas will do that for you. Don't forget to always hit update after you click on these. I'm going to jump into the next tab though up here, which is the grade posting policy. This I actually, what the grade posting policy is if you're grading, if those grades automatically, as soon as you type in that grade, it goes out to the students. You can set it here overall to be automatic, which is what it defaults to. So that's when you type in that grade, that student gets it. Or you can set it to manually post grades. Now, my preference is to leave this as automatic here. And then if there is an assignment where I want it to be manual, I'll set that on the assignment in the column itself. And the reason I say that is for automatic, like if you set this to manual right here, and let's say each week you have students take a 5-question quiz before class to, it's more of a check, a help study. Well, if you have this set to manually post grades, the students won't get their grade for that quiz. So if it was a 5-question multiple choice just to help them, refresh their knowledge before they're coming to class that day, they wouldn't get their grade and see their scores for it. Now, there are times where on a column or when you're grading a specific assignment, where having it set to manually post individually there is a good idea, because say you're grading over 5 days and on Monday, Sally gets her grade, but then Monica hears that Sally got her grade. Monica doesn't understand why she didn't get her grade. So she's emailing you saying, where's my grade? And so sometimes setting something like that to manually for that assignment is a good idea. And then you can release it when you've got all the students graded so that Sally isn't, the only one. But this is a personal preference, and it kind of depends how you have your class set up. So just so you know, that grade posting policy is there. I'm going to go ahead and actually not hit update on this. If I did make those changes, I would hit that. Talking about that grades and hiding grades. If you are, say, for an assignment wanting to hide, you can come in and set it here. It's actually telling me there's no grades to hide at this point. Oh, it's because I haven't graded yet. If I had actually started grading, it would let me do that, and then I could hide them. Okay, so let's look at, with being able to grade better, kind of looking again more at this view. I'm scrolling again all the way to the right. All the way to the right. There is so much stuff in here. And then you get over And you'll see that in Canvas grades, you've got all these total columns for these different groups, right? So it's made one for assignments, final grades, goal tracker, extra credit, participation, journals. I don't even have journals in my class. And reading quizzes. I don't have reading quizzes in my class. So understanding how these columns are created will help with better grading. So let's actually jump back to that hamburger menu and go to our assignments area. The assignments in Canvas are what I call the window to the grades. So this is where actually everything in the grades is controlled, really. So when you have an assignment, and Canvas uses the word assignment, meaning anything graded in the class. So when I say assignment in here, I'm not just saying assignments. That means graded quizzes, graded discussions. All of those are here in the assignments area. I call that learning to speak like Canvas, right? Because that's not what we all think of as an assignment, but Canvas does. So we talk like Canvas. So as you scroll through here, you'll see that I have different groups. So my first one here is assignment, right? So these are all assignments. And as I scroll down, then there's one for final assignments. And then there's one for goal trackers. There's this weird extra credit one that doesn't have anything in it. I have one for participation that has extra credit in it. Then there's these weird ones for journals and reading quizzes. So when you brought stuff in a while back from Blackboard, hopefully we're not doing that anymore, but a lot of times groups were made erroneously from Blackboard imports. So it's always good to come into your assignments area and clean these up. If there's anything left over from an import, even from a previous semester where you've changed things, come in here. And if you do have these that are blank and empty, make sure to get rid of them. And all you have to do is click on that, the little kebab, and say delete. It gives you a little warning and you say delete, and then it just goes away. Okay, the other thing you can do in here is make sure things are in assignments. I say things, assignments are in the correct assignment group. So like these extra credits should probably be in the extra credit group, right? So I'm gonna just grab the little dominoes and I can just drag and drop those to where they should be. Okay, so that we've cleaned that part up, right? So now let's go look at grades and see what that did. So we come back in here to grades. I'm going to scroll all the way over to the right again. And now you'll notice it's a lot cleaner. So it's really only those 5 groups that I really am using within my class. Okay. Now let's go back to that assignments area because there's a few other things that you can do with those assignment groups that again has Canvas doing some of the work for you. Okay. So I'm back in the assignments area. When I come clear up here to the top, the very top, and click the kebab, there's one where assignment groups weight. So if you weight the grades in your class, you can come in here and check that weight final grade based on assignment groups. And now you can give it the numbers of what it's being weighted. Now you'll notice it's adding me up down here to give me a total. So I'm putting it in there, putting it in there. Now I got it to 100. That's what it should be. So Canvas does let you go over 100. I don't really know what that does. I don't recommend doing it. See how, and it'll let me say. See, I don't know. I don't understand.
It's for the really good students.
Yeah, I don't know. So just be cautious of that when you're doing this, that you type in the right, what you want. The nice thing too, if you, and most of you that have weighted grades will have that in your syllabus as well, I would hope. But the students actually, when they go into their grades in Canvas, it actually does give that weighting percentages to them in their view. So if you do that in your class, it is a good thing to have set up here in Canvas because it reinforces that to your students. The other thing you can do from here, so let's say I'm going to scroll down and use one of my smaller. So my goal tracker area, I have 3 goal trackers. Let's say I will let the students drop their lowest grade there. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and click the kebab, and I'm gonna say edit. And right here, I can tell it to drop the lowest score. You can also have it, and you can tell it to how many, obviously this is only 3 assignments, so I don't want it to be too much. You can also set it to drop the lowest score, but never drop a certain assignment. So maybe you have, the first week's quiz on the syllabus, you want them to have that as a score. You could say never drop, and you could say add the assignment. You can never drop goal tracker 1, which means you're either dropping 2 or 3, because there's only 3 assignments in here, but I think you guys get the picture. I'm gonna hit save. Now, one thing I'm gonna point out, if you are dropping lowest grades, which I think most of us realize this, but make sure that your assignments are out of the same amount of points. So, like in this example, actually, this one's worth 10 points. So even if they got a 60% on this one, it's always going to be 6 points. So it's always going to see that as a higher grade than the 5 points that they get in these. So if you're doing that drop highest and lowest, make sure it's within a category that is the same amount of points. Yeah.
So when you do this, how
Mhm.
does it show up for the students? Does it indicate for them in the grade book?
It does.
Which ones dropped?
Yes, it does. When they look at their total column, when they see that, they'll see the totals down at the bottom. It'll tell them which scores computed into that.
Okay.
Yep. And I wish that Canvas could do this out of a percentage for the drop the lowest score, but it has to do it out of points. Just something to know. All right. You guys have any questions about assignment groups or anything? I guess I should say you can make more groups too, if you need to, up here with the little plus group. And just make sure those are organized.
So
Yeah,
when I make a new group,
it puts it down at the bottom.
yeah.
I think you clicked on make a new assignment.
Oh, I did, shoot. Okay, so when I make a new group though, so I give it a group name.
Yep.
And I don't have to use one of their suggested names.
No, you can call it whatever you want. Spanish this week.
But then when I make a new assignment within a group, like the drop-down menu options, so I called this group Tarea homework, right?
Okay.
But then the drop-down options are discussion, quiz, external tool, not graded. I just call all of them assignments. Is that okay?
So, okay, hang on, let's do this together. I'm just made a group.
Okay, so
Okay,
you have a
so
group.
then I make
have
my
a-
group. Now
yeah.
you're wanting to add an assignment here.
now you want to add an assignment there.
Yep.
And the type of assignment it
So-
doesn't show up, right? Like I just made
Right.
my group, it
So-
doesn't correspond to the group.
Correct.
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay, so it's in this group. What this is asking you is, are you making a graded discussion? Are you making a graded quiz? Or are you making an assignment Dropbox?
Oh, but
Okay.
okay, so since I'm only using my
Yep.
course as a shell for a face-to-face.
Yep. No,
then-
no, not necessarily. So let's try this. So if I click this plus assignment now,
uh-huh.
okay, so I'm gonna build a brand new assignment. Now I get the full tools, right? And so I can call this, week 1. Spanish reading. Give it its instructions. Then here, do you see where it says assignment group?
Uh-huh.
This is where I put it into that assignment group.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, then obviously set up all your stuff, hit save.
Okay.
Oh, I have to tell it something. And then that will show up when we go to our assignments. That will show up clear down here and here. Now, if we do it from here,
Mhm.
okay, so this is also going to be an assignment. We're going to call this reading. I'm not going to give it a due date. I'll give it a few points just for the example. I'm going to hit save. Now it's also going to put that here, but you now to edit that, you need to click on it and go edit. And now you can have more of those options.
And do you need to do that?
Well, it depends if you need to change things. So this like defaulted this to be a no submission assignment. So that would mean your students don't have a Dropbox.
Right.
It also just assigns it to everyone in the class. You don't have all of the options. That's kind of like a quick
Yeah,
make the assignment.
okay.
All right. Does anybody else have questions here about assignments? I'm going to jump over and show speed grade or annotations real quick. But there was a tool that I just thought of that I did not put on the list that is one of my favorites that I completely forgot to include. But while we were here, I thought about it. So if you're up here at the top, so I'm in my grades, right? And I've got my due date set and everything. If I come up here and I click on the kebab, there's this one that's edit assignment dates. This is an awesome tool. Click on this and it'll show the open and close and due dates for every assignment in your class. So this is particularly helpful at the beginning of a semester when you've copied from the previous semester and you're wanting to make sure, or if you're just like need a overall picture in your head of when all these things are due. So then you can come in here and actually change due dates directly from here.
Now, is there,
Mhm.
it's just, this has been,
Yeah.
something I've looked for a while. I just have no idea
Yes.
where it would be. And that is the stats for turned in assignments.
For Turnitin assignments would probably turn it, you're
No,
using
just like,
Turnitin?
like tests. I can't find,
Depends, are you using new quizzes or classic quizzes?
well, I just put the test, I just submit the test.
You
The
submit the test.
scores, the score.
Oh, you just type in the scores.
And I want to see,
If you're typing in the scores
Stats.
and the students aren't completing the quiz in Canvas, there's no stats.
we have to download it to Excel.
So my issue
I
is
guess.
it'll do stats like on, because our
Uh-huh.
exams for my course are 100 questions,
Okay.
100 points,
Yep.
but then the final's 150 questions and it won't do stats for anything over 100 questions.
Oh, really?
It's really interesting because I keep trying to
Ooh,
run it and then.
Sure. I will ask our Canvas rep about that. Do you know if you're using classic quizzes or new quizzes? Canvas has two platforms right now, which is part of the problem for
But,
quizzes. So when you're typing in a grade, what stats are you wanting? You're wanting to know like just median scores or
yeah,
high
I want to
scores?
get a distribution.
Yeah.
Because I need to know that it's a normal distribution.
Right,
because
and
if
I
it's-
think for
weird.
manually typed in scores, I don't believe it'll give you stats. Let me double check on that though.
Okay.
And I didn't know that it wouldn't do it over 100 questions. Is it over 100 points too?
Well, it's 150.
No.
points, so
Interesting.
it's 1 point per question, but it's the final.
Yeah, no, I can think of many classes that have that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, so it's like.
that's
it's-
not- okay.
it's weird 'cause I can run it on 100 questions.
Yes,
They do online.
and I will look into that a little more too. And I will give just a quick disclaimer for everybody too. Canvas is still in the process of switching from what was called classic quizzes to new quizzes. So a lot of things with quizzes are a little funky right now because they haven't fully fixed new quizzes and ready to launch, but they kind of quit fixing classic quizzes. And so we're kind of in a weird, spot, but I will check on that one. Yeah.
Like, I just want the tests. Like, I don't want without having to.
Okay, so Heidi was asking in the chat, she says, I don't have the drop-down menu to the left of the search box where you can select which assignment groups to view. How do you get that? Heidi, was that in when we were looking at the grades? And let me close that out. This is where you can do where I think you were talking about the arrange by or the filters, and you can turn on what you see. I think that's where she was talking about. We'll see. Yes, that screen. So on here, if you do the view and do the filters, you can turn on whether you see those filters or not. I just noticed the chat. I think I was a little delayed in that. Okay,
I type all my grades in manually for this
Okay.
semester because they're all face to face.
sure.
But if you were to have the students take something online
Mhm.
and be able to see the stats for it, where would those be?
It depends what type of assignment.
Okay.
For
Is it
assignments in a different spot, for quizzes, classic or new, it's in a different
It's
spot.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wait until it's,
Yeah.
okay.
One thing, I'm coming back to the grades area real quick, and you'll notice now, since I was in my groups area and we set it up to be weighted, and I don't even remember if I have erroneous weights in there or not. But now you'll see that there's this exclamation mark next to my totals. And it's like, what in the world is wrong with that? So if you click on that, it'll actually tell you, and for whatever reason, it's showing it in a little tiny box. Let's see if I can make that bigger so we can read it. So score does not include extra credit because it has no points possible. So it's just letting me know that I have something weighted as being 10% of the total grade, but I don't have any assignments with points in that column. So pay attention if you get these little exclamation marks, because it's Canvas trying to tell you something. And all you have to do, again, is click on those exclamation marks. If you have something weird in one of your total columns too, you'll see that exclamation show up. Just go click on it and see what it tells you, because it'll tell you. All right. So the next part of grading better, before we jump into grading faster, is speed grader annotations. So when you do have your students submit papers, documents in Canvas using the tool we use to grade is called SpeedGrader. And within SpeedGrader, you have options for leaving messages and notes for your students. I'm gonna go ahead and make my total column small again here. Now let me find one of these where my students, yeah, so I know this one my students submitted, they uploaded a document for me, okay? Now to get to SpeedGrader, there's a couple different ways you can get there. One, if I wanna go for the entire column, is I can click the kebab right here at the very top and say SpeedGrader. But if I know I wanna go directly to Willie Wildcat's assignment, I can actually come in and click on his cell individually, click the little arrow over, and then do SpeedGrader. And that will take me directly to that student's assignment. So here's my student who has submitted their assignment. They've submitted it, you know, look through it, okay. Now I'm ready to grade it. Use these annotation tools right in here. You don't need to download it and, you know, type it all up in Word and re-upload it. You can use annotations right in here. So you have everything from being able to, let's say, highlight something. So I'm gonna highlight that there. That's actually not something the student wrote though. Let's see if we can. Oh, that's the text bubble. Helps if I get the right stuff, huh? Well, that's my comment tool. Let's see here. You would think that if I'm
So I've been completely unsuccessful with being able to use this on my students'
really,
PDF assignment, because what I want to do is circle something.
yeah.
And what it will try to make me do is put a comment in wherever I've tried to circle. Like I can't. Just
So like
circle.
that,
Yeah, but then you have to put a comment in.
you don't have to.
So, but then if you try to do something again, so I'm often like, so then if you try to continue on.
Yep.
Okay, so
So do another something.
yes, you are still stuck in that. Like it still thinks that it's
It
the
still thinks
same-
that it wants me to
it's
do it
that
there.
Same red thing that you already did.
Yeah, I'm
so,
seeing
like,
your
there's no way to
confusion there.
get, like a second, so like if I make one line annotation,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm done for the entire page.
And that's mostly on PDFs, isn't it? Is it
But
on
that's all
words?
I have for students is
Yeah.
PDFs.
So I actually, in demoing this just now, I realized that I'm not able to highlight. So this is actually what my student typed in. And I'm not able to highlight that. And that's not very cool.
Or if they handwrite it, scan it and upload it as a
Right.
PDF,
Yeah.
you can't highlight that. It's
Yep.
only, like, specific.
Yes.
Yeah, I just
So
want to
this-
be able to draw on top of their page.
Yeah.
And I can't do, like, it doesn't let me do that. It's really trying to think about it too hard.
Yeah.
And so it's not really letting me, it doesn't, I have not.
See, and
found
I'm
it
not having
useful.
too much problems right now drawing.
The drawing tool.
And-
And
I
then.
think
it-
Carrie,
Yeah, Marcy's
Exactly,
talking.
exactly. Yeah, it's just super,
Yeah.
it thinks you're writing 3 different things and then it thinks they're all together and then it just like thinks
Yeah,
too much.
It
I
thinks
just
too
want to be
much.
able to write on it.
I've-
without-
Carrie,
Yeah.
I've had a different issue with the annotations. On the highlighter tool, they used to work really well, and anymore they're like really, really faint on me. Like,
You can, the only thing you can do for the highlighter is, did you see it on my screen
yeah,
there?
like, and I've
can
done
pick
that,
these.
but like, at one point, like, it actually made a difference in the color, and it seems like recently, when I try and use it, it's like barely detectable.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I can check with our Canvas rep and see if they've changed things and stuff. And I'm definitely going to give them the feedback of like
Just an app.
the trying to draw on there and it not working as well as you'd like.
Yeah.
True.
So yeah,
I haven't had a problem drawing, and a lot of times I'll use the box tool instead of like the drawing
Yeah.
tool to try
Yeah.
and circle something.
right. Yeah, just because it's
That's true.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good point.
yeah, because then it allows you to be able to just
Yeah.
draw. Yeah.
But for some reason, my highlighting tools are barely differentiated or barely detectable anymore.
Yeah, I'm not
They're
sure what that's about.
Really, really light.
Do you see it the same as I do with the colors
Yes.
right here?
No, yeah, I do. And
Yeah.
your highlighting looks really bright. And I don't know if it's maybe because I don't know, maybe I'm using a PC or like
Yeah.
maybe it's a setting on my computer.
Might be a setting on your computer or your display. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it
I
used to
haven't
be
noticed
really-
that one.
It used to be really bright like that. And then I don't know what happened. It like just went all really faint.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to check on your displays. You might shoot a message to IT and ask Alex about that
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other annotation things you have in here is like the cross out and the highlight and circle and all of that, draw lines. I think as we're noticing though, there's been some issues with using the annotation. So I will check and see if Canvas has any updates on that and stuff. I will say, so I'm doing this today on the demo on a PDF. Previously, I had only used it as an instructor as well. I'd used it mostly on Word files, and it works really well on Word files. But I'm noticing on the PDF, it's not so great because I'm not even able to highlight on what my student actually wrote in there. So it does have its own issues and faults. So I will say one thing too, you can grade using this with an iPad Pro if you have a pencil. And that is really nice. You are able to circle and draw and everything on there. Yeah. The other things you can do within here is obviously you do have just the regular comments area that you can type in comments. You can also upload files. You can actually record a video from here as well. If you're just communicating with one student, I think that's okay. I don't really have any concerns of it not being captioned or anything. What I would do if you are giving a lot of video comments is just let your students know if you have problems viewing these, please let me know, so that you can provide them feedback in a different way. All right, let's go, while we're in here, let's jump to one of our first things that's talking about how to grade faster. So our annotations in here might not be working the greatest, but we can provide comments to our students. And a lot of times when we're grading an assignment, we have those comments that we give over and over and over, it'll be, you need a review slide 35 or, something that's really common. Everybody seems to be missing it, or maybe people aren't citing something the right way. So you want to have that comment, and you're giving that to, every third student seems to need that comment. Canvas actually has the comments library. So if you notice in here where I have this comment, I can actually click on this little tiny speech bubble that's right there. And when I click on that, you can see I've already put in a few that I think would be things I would write regularly. And then all I have to do is just click on that and it automatically puts it in there for the students. So you can add different ones to your comments library. You can see it's kind of at the bottom of my screen. There we go, scroll it up. So if I want to say, great job, next time upload, I don't know, something that you say regularly. Say add to library, then it's there for you. Okay. So that can make your grading a little faster. If you're coming in and just giving them a comment, use that comments library.
Carrie, does that feature save only to that particular section or class, or does it save to your account?
No, I believe it is saves just to this assignment. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say leave real quick. I believe it saves to individual assignments. So let's just open up. Oh, no, it saves it to the whole class. So
Okay.
you'll have those as an option for all of the assignments within that course.
And then it doesn't save outside of that particular class. Am I
I
correct?
don't believe so.
Okay.
It shouldn't.
Where do students find the comments? Like, do they see them easily?
They do. So let me jump. Go ahead.
Because I grade like, student concept maps.
Uh-huh.
Every single comment I put on there, they get a notification because they haven't like reset their notification.
Yeah.
The student was like, you made like 40 different notifications in my assignment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like you got notified every single time.
Well, and that's a student's
That's a
preference to
student
setting their,
problem,
yeah. So if you're here in home, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll just go to student view real quick. And I don't think my test student has any, but when they go to grades, they'll see and note, I was earlier kind of off the topic here, but this was when I said the weights show to the students, they see it right there. The students would see their comments. They see a little speech bubble like right here that they can click on to view those comments.
Do they have to click it to see the comment?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they don't just start to see the comment
No.
and say,
Yeah. So they would see that there. Now, the annotations within the assignment are not the same as comments. Annotations within the assignment, they would actually have to open that assignment. So they would have to click here and come in, and where this says no submission because the student hasn't submitted, they would see their sheet with your comments, with your
And-
annotations. Yeah.
There's a rubric too. Where do they see that? Because I have not been able to. figure this out.
Right
Because it's-
here,
yeah.
actually,
Okay.
would be a spot where they would see the rubric. They would be able to, it would have a thing where they could open the rubric right here.
Okay, so it's next to their assignment.
It is. So once they're click into their assignment, they would see it. Oh, when they're in their grade, sorry. And then they would see the assignment. They would actually have to go into it and then see it here.
So
So-
Carrie, when there's a rubric, there's also comment boxes within the rubric, like that automatically get created. And I'm wondering, is it better to make, because I struggle sometimes with whether or not I should make the comment at that rubric section or if I should just make the separate comment below. Is it better to do it one way or another? Is it in terms of the
Less
student seeing the
clicks.
comment?
So in the rubric, it's a lot more clicks for a student if you're
Okay.
trying not to. So I'm trying to show you guys here real quick. So if a student was looking for a course or an assignment with a rubric, if they're in their grades area, they actually do see that it has a rubric right here. They'd see
Yeah.
that little assignment. And then when you have, this is like if they were seeing the rubric. And then I believe they could, if you have a longer description of what these, they can expand those. And then here's the rubric comments. So
Yeah.
see how they see that?
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on the comment. Like, I mean, if it's specific to that portion of the rubric, then probably it should go in the rubric, but it is more clicks for the student to get to it. And I think I don't like more clicks. So depending on what it is, or maybe in your overall comment, then you say, there's additional comments on the rubric. So if
Yeah.
they're,
No, but that's helpful. Because we don't always see how that shows up. So
yep. And to demo that is kind of takes a lot of steps for me. So I don't have one set up specifically for this, but this is just a page on the Canvas help about, it's for students. This is the students help, and it's how do I view a rubric for my assignments. So also, if you're concerned that your students aren't seeing your rubrics, feel free to put one of these links like this in your class so your students know, like, hey, I'm using rubrics and that's where my comments are. If you don't know how to view them, check this out. So
And did you say that you thought a good place to tell them to look at the rubric is in the assignment comments? Or like the speed reader comments, or would it make more sense to put it in the assignment?
well, it's with the assignment. The students get to it though from going to grades.
Okay.
So, and then for them to view the comments for the rubric, they've got to click into the rubric and scroll through the rubric. So if you gave a general comment that they'll see on that grades page with a little bubble that says additional comments in the rubric, good job, you did great, and then additional comments. Hopefully they would take those 2 extra clicks
Right.
and go in and look at
And
it.
you could even save that in your comments library
Yeah.
that tells them how. to get
Exactly.
there.
That's a perfect
Yeah.
point. Yeah, exactly. Put that in your comments library, and as you're grading, just drop it in there. Yep. The next one I was actually going to talk about is rubrics. I'm not going to demo how to do, we could do a whole hour class on rubrics. But rubrics do help with grading faster. If you have, you can have it assign points, and as you go through and fill your rubric, Canvas will actually fill in the scores for you as you're using it. I do have the link to more information about rubrics in the PowerPoint that I do encourage you guys to go look at if you are wanting to use rubrics. Again, I'm not going to go over it too much here because we could do a whole hour just on rubrics, and maybe sometime we will. But we did just touch on how the students see it and how that can be in there to help you guys. So a few more tips before we wrap up here in the next few minutes on how to grade faster. We're going to check on a few shortcut keys. I'm going to look at setting some default grades and then using the Message Students Who tab. So tool. All right, so I'm back in the grades area, and I'm going to go to Speed Grader again. Oh, it still thinks I'm in student view. Oops. I'm in student view over there. Let's try that again. It's what happens when you have too many tabs open and you make Canvas angry. All right, there we are. Now I'm back in my Speed Grader. Now, if you guys have used Speed Grader a little bit, it can be just a little clunky moving from one student to the other. So like, for example, I'm going to give my student here a grade, oops, not 19, 10. And, you can click submit here, and you think maybe it'd move to the next student. It doesn't.
No, it's just for the comment.
Yeah. But there's no way after you put a grade in, I'm just showing like, there's no like next, done and next, right? You have to come up here and either use the drop down and pick the next student, or use the arrow over and do the next student, right? Now, that can get, if you're doing a lot, all that scrolling around and clicking can get a little annoying. But if you come over here to this little sprocket and you click on keyboard shortcuts, right there are some shortcuts for you. So you've got J will take you to the next student. K will be the previous student. C is jumps you right into the leave comment box. G jumps you into the grade, change grade box, and R will open up your rubric.
You saved the best for last.
I know, isn't that fabulous? And I can never remember them in between times I grade. So that's why I'm glad that they have them listed here for you.
Great.
I have a little sticky note with those on it at my desktop.
Yep, that's good.
So this is really handy. I think if anybody's come in here and ever grade more than like 3 assignments at once, it's like, and I don't know why, Canvas, is that nice?
Oh, nice.
Canvas has great functionality and stuff, but then when they have something that's so clunky, I hate how you have to get through Speed Grader.
Maybe there should
So
be an arrow.
yeah,
Remember that.
I know, that's why like J, K, and I mean, once you do it for a little while, like it is really second nature. But then by the time I grade again, because I don't grade that often, I forget them. So
Do you think there's a software designer out there laughing because it's JK? Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Oh, yeah. There totally is.
Yeah.
yeah, there totally is. Yeah, and then why wouldn't they have just done the arrows?
Yes.
Right. Like,
Because then it could say
yeah, somebody
JK.
had fun. So that's one of the great things of Canvas. So I'm going to jump back to my grades area. One of the other things that can come up that we need to do is, let's say I'm going to pick a column where I have it. So for this assignment right here, so this personal wellness one, I have these 4 students have graded, but it's time that those 3 who haven't, they need a 0. And I could come in here and individually click in and type a 0. I'll use the one next to it to show you how you do that. You just click in, type 0. But if I want that just to fill those blank ones with a 0, I can do that. So if I click the little kebab here and I say set default grade and I put 0, and I don't want to check this already overwrite entered grades and I set default grade and it's there, the others are 0 now. So I didn't have to manually come in and do that. Now, let's say you can also use that for, say we did the gold tracker 3, all of my 7 students were in class that day. We did it together in class. I know they all got it, right? So they all get full points. Instead of me coming in here and typing 10, 10, 10, 10, I can use, again, set default grade. I can say 10. And there, I saved myself typing 10 7 times. So those are just nice things. If you have, say, maybe you had a few students who did have a 0, but then you went over this assignment in class together, and now everybody has a 10, you can come in and say set default grade, put it to 10, and actually do check that overwrite already entered grades. Set default grade. I don't know. It's being slow. It's like, no. And then there it is. So that helps with doing things. Now, one of the tools that I like the best, and it's the last one we're going to talk about before we do a few questions, and I know I have you guys right at 1 o'clock, but I really like to be able to contact my students and say, hey, you haven't submitted. So what you can do, I'm going to pick a column here where I've only had 2 students submit, okay? Instead of typing an email to Bucky Badger, Benny Bangle, Butch Cougar individually, what I'm going to do is just click on this column on the little kebab here, and I'm going to say message students who. And then from there, I'm going to do the haven't submitted yet. And then I can just write those, you know, a quick message. If I can. Did you know when people watch you type, you can't type?
Yes.
Just thought I'd point that out. It's proven, you know, remember to submit by Friday. And that message will go out to those students individually. They'll get a message, you know, and it'll say the subject line will have this class's, you know, tag, you know, CLK 101, and they will get that message. You can also use this, let's say, message students who haven't been graded yet. So let's say you told the students they'd get their grade on Friday and there's no way you're going to get it done on Friday. Instead of messaging each individual student who hasn't got their grade yet, come in here and say, you know, haven't been graded, and tell them I will post grades on Tuesday, and then just send it out instead of taking time to individually email all your students. I really like this tool. The one thing I will say is we'll sometimes use it for letting students know that they scored less than a 60 and that they need to come retake. Don't forget to also sometimes use it to praise your students who did well. You know, praise your students who got an A and let them know. So that's what I have for grading for Canvas. I'm happy to take questions. I know that we're right at an hour, so I don't want to keep anybody extra long, but I am able to stay and answer any questions that you may have. I'm smiling if anybody didn't know.
I had a question. My poor daughter is doing distance learning using Blackboard Ultra.
Oh,
No, this is what you have to do to submit assignments. I mean, she's in 7th grade, right? She doesn't know how to use a computer. Seriously, she's in. I don't know. she has to download. Okay, so first you go into the content area
okay.
where there's a menu where you have to download whatever content, like assignment there is.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to the assignment area and submit the assignments
Yeah.
after you have downloaded it in a different place.
Yeah.
And like there's a menu in a different place that you're supposed